In this presentation, we're going to demonstrate how to create graphs on SPSS. We have uploaded the file named Method of Teaching. Essentially, you must click on Graphs, click on Chart Builder, click on OK, and let's go ahead and reset this. So different graphs that you can build are necessarily based on the data that you have available. In this case, we have a continuous dependent variable, and we have two independent variables. One is method of teaching, and the other is gender. The researcher wanted to discover which method of teaching had an effect or had a greater effect on the scores on the SPSS homework. The researcher was also interested in understanding if there was a difference by gender. So to create a bar graph, we can simply click on bar graph, and we can enter gender, one of the dependent variables, as the x-axis and the score as y-axis, and we can click OK. This will provide us an output that looks like this. In this case, we see that male students appear to perform better on the homework assignment than female students. Now, this is okay and it's interesting information, but it's not a very complete story. Our task is to create the best story that we can with a graph. Let's go ahead and create a better story with our graphs. So we're going to click on a clustered bar, and that's going to allow us to determine if there's a difference by method of teaching and gender, and if these have an effect on the grade or the mean grade or mean score of the SPSS homework. So we click OK, and now the output looks like this. So the mean score was higher, as we can see this tall blue column, for male students who received as a teaching method electrical shock. Not so much fun anymore. And for female students, electrical shock actually caused them to perform poorer. Female students appear to react better to being nice, or scored higher, had a higher mean score for SPSS homework when the teaching method was being nice, whereas male students, compared to electrical shock, being nice caused them to score lower on their SPSS homework as a whole. If we'd like to create a different graph that is going to tell us a story about the distribution of the data along these independent variables, we can simply click on Analyze, Descriptive Statistics, Explore, insert the dependent variable inside the dependent list, and we can insert both factors or categorical variables or independent variables inside the factor box. We then click on Plots, and we click on Normality Plots with Test. We will also get a histogram if we click on histograms on the Descriptive Statistics graph option. As you click Continue and OK, you will receive descriptive statistics information. In addition, you will receive a histogram describing the distribution of the data for, in this case, method of teaching electric shock of all the scores combined, not male and female, and the same thing for method of teaching being nice. You will also see the QQ plots, which are used for determining whether the data is normally distributed, and the detrended normal QQ plots will also emerge. These are very good for determining whether the data is distributed in a normal fashion on the dependent variables. So this is electric shock and being nice. It appears to be somewhat normally distributed with a very high extreme score here. Not extreme to the point where it is an outlier. And you would receive the same information for the dependent variable of scores on the homework and the categorical variable of gender. So we see on the histogram the distribution, the normal distribution. We could actually ask for a curve on this by double-clicking and saying, give me a normal curve on this. Normal, close, and that is what the normal curve would look like. Let's go ahead and click out of that. That's what the normal curve would look like. And we can almost tell that, hey, we've got some issues with the data here. The same thing would happen if we ran a normal curve on this graph as well. Our QQ plots, we like this to be zigzagging very close to the line which represents a normal distribution and not fanning away from the line in the extremes or at the ends. So we see that this starts very close to the line, then there's a gap, still pretty close to the line, then we have an outside score here. And the detrended, you'd like to see an even distribution across the across this middle line without necessarily seeing a pattern. We start seeing a little bit of a pattern here on this, and then we see that we have pretty much normal distribution for female on the dependent variable, which is score of the SPSS homework, and we might have some problems with the distribution of male scores. So that's how you create plots or graphs on SPSS.